And hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I hope your school year is off to an incredible start. I hope your kids are amazing and learning so many things from you guys. Welcome to our first Promoting Positive Practices of the new school year. Today, we are going to be working through behavior expectations. So if you're new to this professional development, this is our free professional development offered here through the Early Learning Coalition. We have this training series called Promoting Positive Practices. And so today we are going to be looking through how do we build safe and supportive environments by having those behavior expectations in our classroom. I do have closed caption on the PowerPoint right now set to Spanish. We did have some requests for Spanish closed caption, so I am making that adjustment and those accommodations so that we can help diversify the supports that we provide for all of our teachers, even those teachers who Spanish is their first language. So thank you guys for your flexibility and patience with those subtitles. That's why you see lots of Spanish words coming across the bottom of my screen right now. With that, before we get started with the content, just a couple of housekeeping reminders. My name is Lexi Lungieri. I am the Quality Initiatives and Professional Development Manager here at the Early Learning Coalition. I will be your trainer for the day. We do have some other staff on the call with us today. We do have Ms. Shai. She's going to be co-facilitating our trainings. Watching the chat box. She'll be helping drop some resources in the chat box as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in there. We do have some other coaches on the call with us today. Ms. Kwanda, she's one of our amazing transformative professional development coaches. And then we have Ms. Dewanique or Ms. D. She's also one of our amazing coaches. So you guys will be seeing all of us around throughout all the trainings across the year to get to know our faces, and feel free to reach out if you have any professional development needs. So if you haven't used Zoom or if you haven't used Zoom in a long time, just a couple of reminders for audio and camera. Obviously, if you are in a space where you can have your video on, we would love to see your beautiful faces. But I do know that this is sometimes it's lunchtime, and so we don't want to be rude by eating our lunch on camera. Or we might be watching children still while during nap time while attending this session. And so video may not always be possible, but if you can, we'd love to see faces. And then also, if you're able to engage with us verbally, you feel free to unmute yourself at any time, whether it's to chime in on something or to ask a question. We will have some breakout rooms for some smaller group discussions, and we hope that you'll be able to engage with us that way. So with our Zoom functions for the day, if you have a little red line through your microphones, that means you are muted and we cannot hear you. If there's no red line through the microphone, that means you are unmuted and we can hear you. If you cannot hear us, there might be a change that you need to make with your speaker system, and you would do that by clicking the little caret button next to your microphone button and choosing a different speaker system so you can hear us. Also, same functions go for our videos. So red line through the little camera button means that your video is off and we cannot see you. Christina, happy to see your face on today. Thank you. Miss Deborah, good to see you. And let's see, which other friends do we have? Yeah, Miss Shai and Miss Kwanda. I see their beautiful faces too. And then no red line through the camera button means we can see you and that your camera is on. Before we get started for the day, what I would like before we start any content, please go ahead and put your first and last name in the chat box.
Alexis, Callie Bryant here also.
Hi, Miss Callie. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Just for attendance purposes, go ahead and drop your first and last name in the chat box, please, so we know who's here with us today. If you have someone else attending with you, make sure you put their first and last name in the chat box too.
In the chat box.
Yeah, so we can make sure that everybody who's in attendance today receives the follow-up email with the PowerPoint slides and the resources, the evaluation links, all that jazz. Thank you guys so much. It looks like those are coming in. We appreciate your help with that process. All right, our last Zoom function that we want to remind everybody, at the bottom of your little toolbar where you find your mute button, where you find your camera button, there's also a chat function. Looks like majority of you have found your chat function by putting your first and last name in the chat box. So if you haven't found it yet, find your little toolbar, and the little bubble with the 3 dots on it is going to be our chat box. And if you click on that, a little white box is going to pop up, and you can message everyone in the chat group, or you can message myself privately, whatever works best for you. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to our session on promoting positive practices, classroom management. We're starting off this year with behavior expectations. So our agenda for today, we are going to define what behavior expectations are. We're going to have a short breakout room to discuss what our current successes and challenges are with behavior expectations in our classroom, whether that's teaching it, whether that's getting families on board, those kinds of successes and challenges will be a great discussion between, the groups in smaller sections. We will then explore some strategies for teaching behavior expectations. And then you guys are going to come up with one action item from today to think about how you're going to implement these practices in your classroom. So, as we go through this session, think through something, whether it's new or whether it's something you want to be more intentional about using. Think about how you're going to use this information in the upcoming week. Before I get started, does anybody have any big questions for me at the moment? We did have some more friends join us, so it's good to see you guys all. Hello, Miss Ariana. Hello, Miss Ariel. Hello, Christian and Claudette. Look at all these names. I'm so happy to see everybody. Hello, William. Good to see you guys. Okay, so we're going to jump in, and we're going to define what behavior expectations. Before I give you behavior expectations, either put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. Why are behavior expectations important?
Define what?
Say that again, Ms. Callie.
You want us to define this, this sentence here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just asking, why are behavior expectations important?
Oh.
It sets the mood of the classroom. Absolutely. It sets realistic goals for students to achieve, sets the atmosphere. Beautiful. Children will know what the teacher is looking for. Yes, Christina, perfect. Julia, same thing. So children know what's expected of them. Yeah. When we go into trainings or when we go into any specific space, we know what's expected of us, right? You guys are on this training. You know that you're here. You know that you're going to engage and participate and talk. But you guys also know that you're not going to, try to yell at me or be rude to me or, be disrespectful in any way. And those are behavior expectations. You guys know those behavior expectations based off of your own experience. We've got young little ones, though, who have never been in some of these experiences before. So we have to set those expectations for them so they know what's expected of them within that environment and within that activity. And Ms. Claudette said, expectations are important to have an environment to learn in and not chaos. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let me back up a little bit for one thing. The 3 main items here really for behavior expectations is so children know what's expected of them. This also helps with that classroom management, and then that's going to help prevent those challenging behaviors. So those of you that have gone through our practice-based coaching program might be a little familiar with our early learning teaching practices. So our early learning teaching practices are a set of practices that we've created with the University of Florida. They are informed by the class assessment. They're also informed by the pyramid model for social emotional learning, as well as the Division of Early Childhood recommended teaching practices. All to say that these practices are based in research, and we know that when they are used as intended, All children benefit from their use in the classroom. So with our infant toddlers, this is going to really pay attention to how do we teach behavior expectations, right? We teach colors, we teach numbers, we teach shapes. We're going to teach behavior expectations as well. And this is going to include, especially for toddlers, that we're modeling what those behavior expectations sound and look like. And then we're going to provide directions that tell toddlers what to do instead of what not to do, right? Telling them don't run doesn't tell them to use their walking feet instead. By saying something instead of let's use our walking feet, that tells them what to do. And then for our preschool, again, this is going to be about our 3, 4s, and 5s. We're still going to teach those behavior expectations because they're still going to need some more support and guidance on what's expected of them in different activities and different scenarios. So we're going to teach and we're going to remind them of what the behavior expectations are. With that, we're going to include some visuals that are posted in the classroom. They're positively stated. There are 5 or less in the class as far as the number of behavior expectations, right? If we've got 10 behavior expectations, that's too many. We're not, the 3, 4s, and 5s are not going to remember all 10 of them. So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to look at some examples of these here in today's training, but I just wanted to briefly review where this information is coming from. And then for preschool students, again, still using positively stated directions that tell them what to do. But then we really want to also encourage using positive descriptive feedback to encourage those children who are using those expected behavior expectations. So tell them what they're doing and why what they're doing is correct. So that reinforces for them to do it again in the future. And we'll look at specific examples of what that sounds like. All right, so this is also going to tie into class. So either unmute or in the chat box. Let me actually, I think I have a poll for this one. Oh, no, my poll is not ready for this one. Sorry about that. Unmute yourself or in the chat box. How would you say, how familiar would you say you are with class? Are you very familiar? You've taken class group coaching before. You're not so familiar. You have heard about class, but you're not sure what it is. Or you're not familiar with class. You've never heard of it. You don't know what it is. So familiar, kind of familiar, or not familiar.
Not familiar.
Not familiar. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Taken the class, familiar, somewhat familiar, not familiar. Okay, so we've got a broad group here. Great. So class is the classroom assessment scoring system. This is the tool that early learning coalitions use for program assessments. So a observer comes out typically about once a year and uses this class assessment to provide a score for how effective teacher-child interactions are within a classroom. And that score is based on a 1 to 7 scale, 1 being not good interactions and 7 being the top, most high quality interactions that you can have. So we want to have higher scores within our class system. So today's training, we're going to tie behavior expectations in with class in regards to infants, toddlers, and pre-K. So with class, go back. My apologies, my buttons ran away from me. So with infants and toddlers, this is going to allow for, infants first. Infants is going to allow for facilitated exploration because we're going to be encouraging specific positive behaviors that we want the infants to continue to do. This is also going to allow us to be very responsive caregivers by showing respect for the infant state. We're going to use a very nice, calm, gentle voice, respectful language to tell them, what is expected of them and show them what's expected of them. They're infants. They need to see things and do things. Toddlers, this is really going to help support that emotional and behavioral support by being proactive in our behavior guidance and then supporting those positive behaviors that we want to continue to see. And then finally, for our preschool age group, this is going to encourage that classroom organization because we're going to be providing behavior management techniques, which is going to include clear communication of behavior expectations, and then being proactive in behavior management. So telling them what to do versus what not to do, making sure we're monitoring, right? So this is going to tie into class for today's session. Does anybody have any questions about class or the class tool? All right, if you think of something, drop it in the chat box. I'll be watching for it. Again, if you weren't able to join right at the beginning of this session, I do have subtitles going in Spanish. We did have some requests for Spanish subtitles on these trainings. So that is what is going across the bottom of our screen right now on our PowerPoint, just as a heads up. All right, so we're going to define what the difference is between behavior expectations and rules, because sometimes we as teachers use those words interchangeably. So for today's purpose of the training, behavior expectations are going to be very broad goals for behaviors that can be expected in any class, any setting, any activity. So whether it's outside, whether it's at lunchtime, whether it's an art project, and then rules are going to tell children what to do in a given setting. And so these are going to be very specific, concrete, observable behaviors that we can see. So for example, a behavior expectation might be that we're going to be safe. We can be safe in a classroom, outside, in an art activity. Be safe can be applied to very broad activities versus a rule for inside for being safe might be that we have to use our walking feet, whereas a rule for outside for be safe might be that we take turns on the slide. So behavior expectations are going to be more broad, rules are going to be more specific. So let's stop and think real quick. What is one behavior expectation and then one rule that you use in your classroom? Either put them in the chat or unmute yourself and share them out loud. So one behavior expectation, that broad goal, and then one rule that you currently use in your classroom.
One of the rules for the classroom will be no running.
Okay. That would be a rule. And so what would be the more broad behavior expectation for that rule?
We don't throw toys at each other outside doors and things like that. The toys.
Okay. So if we're not throwing toys, we might want to be safe.
Yeah.
So Miss
Pushing is another one. No pushing, because you could, get someone.
Yeah.
Hands, feet at objects or to yourself.
Okay, great. That's positively stated. That's very specific.
And hands are for helping, not for hurting.
Perfect. So hands are for helping would be a really positively stated expectation. Expectation, respect your teachers, your friends, and your toys. Yes, respect is a perfect one. Ms. Chrissy said behavior expectation, be kind. A rule would be keep hands and feet to yourself. Yes, Chrissy, that was a perfect example. Behavior expectations, that broad goal. We're going to be kind. And within being kind, the rule for being kind would be we're going to keep our hands and feet to ourselves. So perfect example, Christy. Thank you. Claudette said, be kind and no hitting. So with this one, we'll talk about behavior expectations. We want to make sure that we have whatever we're giving to children is positively stated. So instead of saying no hitting, we might say instead, use gentle hands or use kind touches. And Ariel said, expectation, use table manners, right? That might be respectful, yeah. Michael, ask for help. would be the expectation. And then the rule would be raise your hand to get that help. Absolutely, a little bit more specific, depending on what the situation is. Rule, keep feet under the table. Yeah, expectation, be gentle. Rule, do not hit. So expectation, broad, be gentle. Yes, the rule might be use gentle hands, or use kind touches. Great, you guys got a good idea of where we're headed. So keep that in the back of your mind. Think about what behavior expectations you currently have in your classroom. Think about how you adjust those rules for those behavior expectations in different settings, in different activities, with different people around. And as we go through this, kind of challenge yourself and say, do I have all these components, or do I need to make some slight adjustments so that it meets best practices? All right, before we go into breakout rooms, we do want to think through that when we have behavior expectations implemented in the classroom, we know that they're going to have positive outcomes for all children. And so the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations and Head Start, as well as the Early Childhood Learning and Knowledge Center, demonstrate that when we have these in place, this is going to help maximize that learning time. When children know what the expectations are and they are given ahead of time, the activities are then able to begin in an atmosphere primed for that engagement and for that learning opportunity. This is also going to help us provide a very clear, consistent message to children. When we use the same language across activities, routines, and transitions, we're helping to build a common language between teachers and children. I always encourage sites, try and use the same language across all your classrooms. If they hear it starting in the infant age and they hear these same words all the way across through pre-K, they will have heard them for 4 years, and they will have a better understanding of those behavior expectations rather than it changing from classroom to classroom. I know that's a skill that does take some time and some collaboration with schools and directors, but it's a challenge. Think about it and think if there's a way to implement that. And if you would like support with that process from the ELC, we are more than happy to help with that. We have done that with a few of our schools already here in the county. And then finally, when they are implemented, this is going to help prevent challenging behaviors. When we tell children in a positive manner what we expect from them, we can then reinforce behaviors we want to see based on our stated expectations. So there's going to be a couple of components for behavior expectations. The examples we're going to look at today's will focus on classroom behavior expectations, which is going to be different from activity expectations, right? Activity expectations might change from day to day or from one activity to the other. But when we create program-wide behavior expectations, we want a couple of things. We want them to be positively stated, posted at the children's level with visuals, few in number, 5 or less, and then reviewed daily and discussed throughout the day. Okay, so center-wide behavior expectations, these are going to be ways that the children are supposed to act throughout the entire center. We want them to be stated positively, so phrased in a positive manner, right? So something like, be friendly, that is positively stated, very broad, positive statement, versus don't hit your friends. Okay, that doesn't tell them what to do instead. And then we want to try and keep it 5 or less. So 5, 4, or 3 behavior expectations. That way they're easy to remember, they're easy to recite, they're easy to learn. And then posted at the child's level with visuals. So visuals help children understand expectations. And when they're posted at the eye level, then they can reference them on their own throughout the day. This makes it easier for the teacher to reference them when they are being reviewed on a daily basis. Make it a classroom job. Somebody's job every single day is to help the teacher point to those behavior expectation visuals and go through them, just briefly before transition, or just briefly during circle time, or briefly right before you start center time. Have somebody do it, have some kid come up and point to them and label them, and have the rest of the group repeat after them. That way they get to learn and point at it. And I have seen it when it's taught that way, kids will then on their own, when a conflict arises, they'll go and point to those behavior expectations on their own. They'll remind their friends in center time or in small group activities, hey, don't forget we have to be safe, or hey, we have to use gentle hands. Those kinds of things do happen when it's being taught and consistently encouraged throughout the classroom. And then finally, behavior expectations are best taught to students when they are taught and referenced throughout the day. It's not just, I'm going to teach it one time, one day. That doesn't help them remember it or recall it or use it or think about different ways to implement it in, their social life. So it is best to review those expectations before an activity and or before a transition. We really wanted to, encourage this particular training right now because you guys are at the very beginning of your school year. And this is the time to set the pace and to set the tone for how the rest of the school year is going to look. So if we get these behavior expectations in place and we are teaching them and we are really enforcing them over these first few weeks of school, this is going to help set you up for success for the rest of the school year. All right. What we're going to do next, I'm going to set up some breakout rooms. We're going to have some discussions in these breakout rooms. What are some of the behavior expectations you currently have? What times of day do you think are important to review behavior expectations? What behavior expectations are easy for children to follow? What expectations are a little bit more challenging or hard to follow? I do see we have a couple directors on the call with us today. So thinking about, how can we implement some of this as a center-wide expectation? Are our behavior expectations posted in our site? And how many of the teachers have behavior expectation visuals posted in the classroom? So Ms. Shai did put those questions in the chat box for us. And so as I'm getting you guys set up into your breakout rooms, does anybody have any questions for me? Let me set this up, and we're going to do about 5 minutes in each room.
Yeah.
And we'll just do a little bit of smaller groups. We'll do 2 groups of 9, so it'll be a little bit smaller, and just have a brief discussion for about 5 minutes of what's working, what's not working, what do we have posted, how can we implement this, and think through some successes and challenges that you currently have within these. So breakout rooms, if you haven't done breakout rooms with us before, what will happen is once I send you to your breakout room, a little box will pop up that says I'm inviting you to a breakout room. You'll click on that button that says join breakout room. Then when you want to leave, if you want to leave and come back to this main room while there's still time on the clock, you'll click the blue button on the right-hand side that says leave room. Make sure that you leave the breakout room and not the meeting. If you leave the meeting, you'll have to join us, click back on the Zoom link to join us back in the session. And we're going to go into breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. I'll be facilitating one room and Ms. Shai will be facilitating the second room. And we'll have a brief discussion about what our conversations look like when we came back to to the main room. Anybody have any questions about what we're doing? Okay, I will see you guys back here in about 5 minutes. We are back. We are back on recording. And I know my group had a great couple of brief discussion points about some of the challenges they face with transitioning from outside back to inside, the challenge of, you know, shifting between teachers and needing some consistency with behavior expectations when shifting between teachers. We also looked at, you know, how do we support children with special needs in a classroom, you know, based off of behavior expectations. We have some kids who might be on the spectrum or have a certain diagnosis, and the behavior expectations for them are going to look different than the behavior expectations for our other students. So those were some of the items that were brought up in our breakout room. Ms. Shai, how did your discussion go with your group?
We had a pretty good discussion. It seems like everyone is incorporating those behavior expectations, and they do have them posted in the classroom. A lot of the participants said how they use Second Step for their behavior expectations, and that they are reviewing them at the beginning of the day, so at circle time mostly, and so at the very beginning of the morning. And then someone also brought up that they use them during transitions. So they state those expectations during transitions. They were just saying the harder behavior expectations for the children to follow is having calm bodies. So
that's hard for me some days too. So I totally understand. Thanks, Ms. Shai. All right, so we're going to jump into some strategies to hopefully help teach behavior expectations. You're still going to need to come up with your own set. Remember, positively stated, fewer than 5, very broad general statements, but this is going to be the way that we teach those behavior expectations once you have come up with them. So come up with them first. That's going to be step 1, and then we're going to teach it, and then we're going to reinforce it. So with our teaching strategies, we're going to see a couple of different strategies here. Our first one is going to be those visual supports. So we want to make something colorful, catchy, pictures that help represent what those behavior expectations are. Remember that we want to have them 5 or less, 5 expectations or less, positively stated, posted with visuals in the classroom on the student's eye level. If we've got them way up here and they have to look up high in order to see them and in order to access them, then they're not at our eye level and we can't see them very easily throughout the day. Our next strategy is going to be modeling. Modeling is a beautiful strategy for almost anything in early education. Modeling is going to be showing and telling the children how something works. So this is going to be, you know, I'm being safe by using my gentle hands. I'm showing them what a gentle hand looks like. Or I'm being safe by using my walking feet, and I'm going to show them what walking feet looks like. Or, oh, let me see bubbles in your mouth. We're going to have to be quiet. We're going to be kind. We're going to be respectful. Show me your bubbles in your mouth. It looks like this, right? Show them exactly what you want from them, and then they can copy you. With modeling, there's some other ways to incorporate this too. So role play, both examples and non-examples of behavior expectations, right? So if we really want to encourage being friendly with each other, let's role play out whether it's during dramatic play in center time, whether it's really briefly during circle time, whether we do it with the children role play different scenarios, or we can role play with puppets with different scenarios, or we could even tag team another teacher or co-teacher with us. We can role play it with the teacher or co-teacher, or the child can role play with the teacher or co-teacher, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to role play through this. Use puppets. I've seen teachers come up with these amazing puppet stages before out of cardboard boxes, and the kids just devour that up. They love to put on a play. They love to, you know, use dramatic play to express their everyday, day-to-day situations. So give them an opportunity to do so. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute long production. It literally can be 1 or 2 minutes where they role play out. What does it look like to be a friend? What does it look like to be safe? What does it look like to be respectful? What's a way that we are not respectful? What's a non-example of how to be safe? And then how can we change that so that we can be safe? And use of both examples and non-examples helps really reinforce what we're trying to teach them. Our third strategy is going to be positive feedback. So positive feedback is going to encourage the child's efforts as they're trying to learn a new skill. And this is going to be really describing their behavior expectation as they're doing it and encouraging them to continue to do it. So for example, I see Joey using his walking feet. He's keeping himself safe and his friends safe. He's doing a great job. High five, you're amazing. Or James is raising a quiet hand. He is being respectful. Describe the behavior of what you're seeing and why it's important. This is going to help reinforce that behavior for them to continue to use it in the future. And then finally, preparing the children. So making sure that you state your expectations ahead of the activities before you begin. So, you know, we're going to go play outside. We're going to walk to the door to line up. We're going to be respectful by having quiet voices as we go through the hallways, as we go to the playground, right? Say your expectations ahead of time before the transition starts or before the activity starts so the children know what to do and what's expected of them. And you're going to have more success that way rather than trying to remind them in the moment when those challenging behaviors are already occurring. So prepare them, state those expectations ahead of time, and then repeat them throughout the activity, throughout the day, throughout the school year, especially at the beginning of the school year or when we have new children come to our classroom. Okay. Any questions so far? All right, so this is an example of a behavior expectation poster, visual supports. So we have a couple on the left-hand side. There's less than 5. They are positively stated. There's visual pictures represented with each of them. So that it does meet those best practices for behavior expectations. We've got be friendly, be safe, and be a worker on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we've got we are safe, we are kind, we are responsible, right? So what do you think about how might we teach these examples of behavior expectations from this slide?
By using visuals for every rule or every expectation.
Okay. Yeah, we do have some visuals posted here on these posters. Thanks, Christy.
Teach them songs about these expectations.
That would be a great.
One of my teacher does so excellent in everything she teaches. She comes with a song and just rhythms for the kids, and they have fun learning these.
Yeah, and songs are catchy for kids, right? They pick up
Mhm.
on them, they sing them, and then parents at home are wondering what they're singing.
Yeah.
We can read stories.
Mhm.
Let me write that down. Make a song.
We can read stories to them about, you know, safety and kind and responsibilities and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. How are the 3 little bears being safe?
Yeah.
Are they being respectful? How are they being kind? Yeah.
You can also use puppets with that also.
Absolutely. That role modeling.
Role modeling.
Sorry, role playing. All right, so we gave you guys some stuff to think about. We thought about how to create behavior expectations. Remember, we want less than 5, positively stated with visuals posted at children's eye level. We're going to teach them by modeling it for them, using that positive feedback. We're going to use that positive descriptive feedback, and then we're going to also prepare them ahead of time and state those expectations before a transition or before an activity. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back into our breakout rooms for about 5 minutes, and you guys are going to choose one thing from today on what you're going to use over this upcoming week and how you're going to implement behavior expectations in your classroom, or how you're going to support a teacher if you're a director, how you're going to support a teacher using behavior expectations in their classroom, or center-wide if you want to think about how are we going to create center-wide behavior expectations. So we're going to go back into breakout rooms for 5 minutes. Each person's going to choose one thing that they're going to work on from today's session, and discuss how you're going to help work on that. We're going to come back, we'll do some resources, and then we will wrap up for the day. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay. 5 minutes, and I'll see you guys back here shortly.
I'm sorry, you got cut off a little bit, Miss Callie.
What did you say, sweetheart?
I said, I'm sorry, you got cut off while we
Oh,
was
that's okay. I
transitioning.
know the class is talking about what our expectations are from the children. But in order for us to be teachers, we gotta have the expectation from the children as well as the family. We need to get them a little involved, and we can find out a whole lot of stuff that we can work to our advantage. You know, leaving the parent out sometimes. Sometimes I know we you just have to do it. That's right. That's the way I see it. I don't know, Miss Debbie.
All right, we had great discussion in my breakout room about next steps, and I'm sure Ms. Shy did. I do want to be mindful of our time. We've only got about 5 more minutes, and I want to make sure we get you guys the resources that we have for you today, as well as get you the link for the evaluations for your certificates and some next step items. So for today, we will be sending you, we have 2 resources we're going to share. Our first one is the National Center for Pyramid Model Implementation. This is a 2-page handout, behavior expectations, there's strategies on one side and a poster on the other side. The other resource we have for you today comes from the University of Florida, Anita Zucker Center. E is for behavior. And so this one looks at 6 strategies, all of which we did review during today's session. And on the front, it talks about the strategies. And then on the back, it talks about a very specific example of what that strategy might sound or look like. So those are going to be coming in the chat box right now. Ms. Shai did put those in there. They will also be coming in the follow-up email after today's session. So to wrap up, we did define behavior expectations as those broad goals for behaviors that can be expected in any class setting, whether it's outside, inside, lunchroom, art. We discussed why having those expectations are important to help maximize that learning time, provide that consistent message, and then help preventing challenging behaviors. We did share some strategies for teaching those behavior expectations. So those visual supports, modeling positive feedback, and then preparing students to enhance teaching behavior expectations. And then finally, we did come up with some next step items for you guys to try and think about how you're going to use this information and implement it within your classroom. That is going to wrap up our session for today with promoting positive practices, behavior expectations. There is going to be a follow-up email with the resources that's going to be sent out after today's session. Ms. Shai is going to drop the evaluation link in the chat box for you. This is how you get your in-service hours. We look at absolutely every single evaluation that's ever submitted to us so that we can better adjust these trainings for you guys. And if we don't get feedback, then we can't make those adjustments. So honest feedback is always welcome. Please, please, please. Whatever email address you put into the evaluation, that is the email address that your in-service certificate will go to. It will automatically go to you. So check your spam box because sometimes it goes there. For whatever reason, if you fill out the evaluation, you checked your spam box, it's not in your in folder, and you can't find your certificate anywhere, just shoot me an email or shoot Ms. Shai an email and we'll get it to you guys. The other thing we've got in 2 weeks is our next session, the next portion of promoting positive practices. We will be doing another section on classroom management. This time we're going to go through transitions. So we hope we're able to see you guys back on that session. And then finally, if you have not seen, or if you have not heard about, or if you have not registered for it, this year we are having a professional development email subscription list. And I'm going to put the link to that in the chat box right now. And what that does is copy, paste. We know that I send emails to directors about all of our professional development opportunities throughout the year. Sometimes they get busy. Sometimes they forget to send it to you guys as the teachers. So if you guys want to be a part of that email list to get those updates about what professional development is being offered and what's coming up, go ahead and fill out the form that I just dropped in the chat box. We'll include it on the follow-up email as well. And this will allow you to either receive email and or text updates about upcoming professional development events that we are offering here at the Early Learning Coalition. We want to make sure as many teachers as possible have access to this information. And so we are doing the email subscription list. That is going to be it. This is my contact information. I'm going to stay on for just a couple more minutes in case anybody has any follow-up lingering questions. But this wraps up our Promoting Positive Practices session for the day. You guys were an amazing group of participants. I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have an incredible rest of your day.